Another one we're going to talk about here, and they spent a lot of time on this. It's Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Wow, Black Ops 6. We've come a long way, gents.
Wow.
They actually opened the show with this, and then went on to do more of a quote unquote deep dive, where it's one of those things where they just go to the studio and the guys just say, we've done this and this before, but this time we're doing this thing that you love. It's going to be the best ever. This is the most responsive Call of Duty. This is the most Call of Duty ever. You know, that kind of stuff, right? That's fine. That's all part and fun. And the actual gameplay trailer, all the footage they've shown, it looks, as you'd expect, quite good. I would say the engine is in a good place. This is Treyarch again, so I guess the last one they did was the Cold War entry, which was a very handsome game and a launch title for PS5 and Xbox Series X. Wait, was it launch or near launch? It was actually launch, yeah. And that one, that had ray traced shadows. It also had a 120
and RTAO.
It did. That's right.
On PC.
It was Modern Warfare before that had RT shadows only. Did that have AO on PC?
No,
it was just the shadows.
Although their tech supported it, I'm pretty sure we heard behind the scenes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. But Cold War was pretty impressive actually at the time, and it was a good showcase for what the consoles could offer, I would say. And, you know, better on PC even, of course. But hey, it does look visually good. It's a continuation, obviously, of what these guys have done before over at Treyarch. It seems to be taking place during the Gulf War era this time. It still looks comparable to prior entries, so it's not like they're doing anything crazy new here, but it's just fancy. Everything's clean, sharp. It still has that crisp Call of Duty look to the image quality. Everything moving along at a smooth frame rate. I hope they retain the 120 hertz support mode that they had in Cold War. I think on the console at least. Obviously, PC will get that and more. That would be excellent. I don't know.
Yeah.
What else sticks out to you guys about this? I don't think any of us are like huge COD players, to be honest. But
no, I play the campaigns usually, which I think is the same boat that John is in. But I don't know. It seems like since Modern Warfare 2019, it seems like we're kind of a kin in terms of the overall look of the games. Now they've improved since then, but 2019 was a big improvement, especially in terms of like the first-person animations, like the snappiness and the way everything looks and the way the gun is moving is just such a big improvement over other similar titles, I think. And it looks great here. It looks fantastic here. Actually, they're doing more with like cornering the gun in certain ways, and it looks very compelling, I think, the first-person animation. The only thing that really stands out to me, tech-wise, are two things. The first thing is that there are some screen space artifacts in the reflections. Pretty obvious.
Unsurprising.
Just one thing to look for, but yeah, just very obviously SSR, super obvious. The other thing, though, more interesting, is that the shadows look very consistent in some areas, very sharp, some areas resolving very fine detail, like goggles on a character's face, shadows underneath, very sharp on the gun model as well, and very diffuse in some instances when you're looking at interior lights. So that, to me, looks a whole lot like potentially ray trace shadows, which we also saw in Cold War. But, you know, I mean, subsequently, we haven't really seen too much of that now, have we? So this is, certainly interesting.
One thing that's good news about that then is that it does potentially suggest that we could still see that 120 FPS mode, because that was the thing that they would disable in 120 is the ray traced shadows, right? So if they still have the budget to do the ray traced shadows at 60 FPS on consoles, then presumably they could still pull off a 120 mode as well. But again, we don't know what this was captured on. It was I mean, just in terms of like ease of production, it's probably PC anyway.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it could be PC and representative of console, but we just don't know, right? Yeah.
I mean, realistically, unless a trailer explicitly says this is running on this specific hardware, we can usually assume PC just in terms of asset production for whoever's making the trailer, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to get all the types of fancy shots you want when you're just doing it on a PC because you have full control over that stuff. So...
yeah. The one thing, so I made a tweet while I was watching this. The reason why I was curious about what the reflections were being done, rewatching again, there's a lot of screen space artifacting. But there's a shot at what is roughly 41 or 42 seconds where it shows a character and they've got glasses on, or maybe it's goggles actually, and you can see the flames reflected in them. They're obviously completely off screen. And I don't know if the Call of Duty games have ever used like planar reflections of any sort, or real-time cube maps or anything like that. So I'm curious to see what that is in the final product, if it is even in the final product, because, a lot of this is like spliced footage with archival footage, because that's the whole Black Ops thing. So I'm curious to see like what that looks like in game. They
could fake
this
that.
Is a cross-gen. Yeah, they could fake it a bit, but usually I don't know how you fake it. But in this case, it is a cross-gen game too. I'm curious to see when Call of Duty will finally make the jump to being current gen only.
5 years.
And I presume this is Treyarch's tech too, right? So it's not the IW tech. And one thing that I kind of liked about Treyarch is IW, after Modern Warfare 2019, they just stopped doing ray tracing.
Yeah, they did.
Whereas, with the Black Ops team at Treyarch, they did do ray tracing. They added an RTAO and they did presentations on it, and they seemed like they were actually comfortable with that technology and still using it for their titles after the fact. I'm curious if they've iterated on it beyond what we saw back then. Maybe there's something else in here that we just can't see. So I'd be curious about that.
I actually think that they've homogenized the engine for this entry. They've brought them all together. They're homogenized. That's what the advertising is.
They confirmed that?
I believe so.
Well, if that is the case, and I wouldn't doubt Oliver there, that's a little bit sad. I mean, just because they ended up producing very similar looking games, which was kind of impressive that they looked almost like they were on the same technology at the end of the day. But having two tech teams doing two different things, I always thought maybe led to at least different solutions for similar problems. And that's always good for the industry, I would say, at that point, where you have, they both have games where it's like static time of day, but you can come up with a different solution to do that. And I think that would be a bit sad if everything was just IW now, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. We'll talk a lot more about Call of Duty in the future, no doubt, because that's what you do. No, it's an impressive tech showcase, so in many ways, and I look forward to covering it.